I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I just take Paxil, Xanax, Zoloft, Flomax, morphine, Valtrex, Flonase, Plavix, codeine, Zyrtec, Zoma, Zantac, Ultram, Zocor, Zipro, Prozac, dopamine, Demerol, Lexapro, Tylenol, Vicodin, Lyrica, Lipitor, and Adderall, but I don't do no drugs, man.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Beard, joined again by my husband, Paul.
Paul.
Sorry. Oh goodness, it's been a long day. So we are continuing our fundamental series podcast, and today we're going to be talking about fats. But first, we kind of need to mention like the components, really, of food, the information for your cells. That's what food is. It is information for your cells, and we divide it up into certain categories based on the functions that they provide for the body. And today we're going to be talking about fats. But
I thought we were talking about macros, micros, and
we are,
nutrients.
and I'm about to get to that.
Oh,
You're jumping ahead.
Okay.
I kind of changed it up a little bit on you. So a lot of you are probably familiar with the term macros, right? A lot of the places who provide meal planning services or people who have who are coaches or personal trainers are always talking to their clientele about macros, the protein, carbohydrate,
the bodybuilders,
fat. That's how they break it into it. Very little mention about vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, right? So the macros are fat, protein, carbohydrates. And the micros, which get very little attention, are your vitamins, which are either water soluble or fat soluble. And of course, there are macro minerals and then trace minerals. And then you also have something called phytonutrients, and these are getting more attention, thank goodness. And it's just really a broad name for a wide variety of compounds produced by plants, but are also in animal proteins as well. But they're your antioxidants, your flavonoids, your phytochemicals, flavonoids, isoflavonoids, catechins, anthocyanins, carotenoids, polyphenols. There are all these things, and each plant or vegetable, fruit, animal protein will have a different amount of certain of these phytonutrients, and you need these. Some more than other, depending on many things. And the amount of macros, micros, phytonutrients is determined basically by your age, your sex, your stress levels, activity levels, if there's presence of chronic diseases or imbalances within your body. Medications will place greater burdens,
toxins,
and your overall toxic burden, the toxins that you're exposed to within your environment. So today we want to talk about the macro of fats. And when I was a dietitian, fat was a dirty word. Everything at that time was low fat. And so I was instructed to teach diabetic patients, heart patients to eat low fat. That was going to save them. And so they were supposed to eat margarine instead of butter and very lean animal protein and loading them up on carbs because there was, carbs didn't have a lot of fat in them. And we were just
whole wheat.
We were making matters worse. It has turned out to be a disaster, and it's based on that food pyramid. And it's one of the reasons I got out of dietetics. I was like, this doesn't make much sense. And I cringe when I think about the things that I told people.
And they're still kind of teaching a lot of these things still.
I know. Yes, they are. And it's very disheartening, but please do not be afraid of fat. You need fat. It is absolutely essential. That's why there's things called essential fatty acids. It's essential that you eat them, okay, for your body to function right. So let's go over some of the functions of fat in our body. So one, of course, source of energy, right? Provide a great source of energy. They are a component of cell membranes. Every cell in your body has a cell membrane, and fat is a component of that.
Most of your brain is fat, right?
A lot of your brain is fat, absolutely. It is a carrier of nutrients, especially your fat-soluble vitamins. Your fat-soluble vitamins need fat in the body so that they can be dispersed to the places where they need to get to. You need fat for blood clotting. Can't clot, don't have fat. Wound healing, have to have fat, the essential fatty acids for wound healing. Fat also is a precursor for hormones and immune cell synthesis. Your sex hormones are made from a fat-like substance, which we'll talk about later, cholesterol, which is a primary building block for hormones and immune cells. So, and then fat, the covering of your nerves is made up of fat, and which helps transmit nerve impulses. And this is just, and this isn't all inclusive. Fat does a lot of other things in our body too. But I just want you to get over the fear of fat. You absolutely need it, but the quality and the sourcing of your fat is the key. Many of us are eating very inflammatory, DNA damaging fats, primarily out of convenience.
Most of the processed foods, that's where.
Yes, all of your processed foods are going to have seed oils that are extracted using very bad practices. That
High heat and often a chemical extraction.
Yeah, so it makes them very inflammatory. And there are different categories of fats, and some of you may or may not know these. Of course, you've got saturated fats, unsaturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. Then there's trans fatty acids. And saturated fat especially has gotten a bad rap too. Like, oh, you got to avoid the saturated fat. It's just, it'll harden up those arteries. And that could not be further from the truth. Fat is not your enemy. Excessive carb intake, hyperinsulinemia, and inflammation is your enemy when it comes to heart disease. And more research is coming out about that. So don't be wary of saturated fat. So what are some types of saturated fats? You probably know some of these, Paul, right? Butter, good old butter.
Right.
Made from
cows that eat grass.
Cows that eat grass.
Not cows that eat corn.
Right, because the corn is your GMO corn. They're going to be fed GMO corn.
Causing inflammation.
That causes inflammation. And you are what you eat too. So if that cow is eating GMO corn, you are also eating the GMO corn. So butter is a great source of saturated fatty acids. Coconut oil, cheeses, fatty meats, anything that tends to be solid at room temp is typically a saturated fatty acid. That's why you don't want to throw coconut oil down your sink. I know a lot of people, you do something called oil pulling, or they'll brush your teeth with coconut oil and spit it into their sink. Bad practice. That will clog up your plumbing real quick.
Yeah, it melts.
Paul got on to me that one day. I wasn't even thinking about it.
Well, it melts at around 80, 85 degrees. So when the pipes are 60 degrees, it's going to re-solidify once it's getting in there.
And then, the next category is unsaturated fatty acids, and these are your mono and polyunsaturated fats. So the unsaturated fats, these are your omega-9s, your omega-7s, your omega-6s, and your omega-3s. I'm hoping those terms are kind of familiar to you.
At least the omega-3 should be.
At least the omega-3s I know should be, because of the fish oil. A lot of people, physicians will tell their patients to consume fish oil, whether in supplement form or eat the fish. And so you need a variety of these monounsaturated fatty acids to provide your body the building blocks that they need. And then it's also, I need to mention that some of these essential fatty acids your body makes, but it can't make it in the amounts you need to sustain proper function. So it is essential that you eat them.
Okay.
And I do want to stress about the omega-6 fatty acids. You know, we are consuming a lot more omega-6 fatty acids versus omega-3 fatty acids than our grandparents. It's almost just like completely shifted in the opposite direction.
A 3-to-1 ratio is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 1-to-1 would be ideal, but it's impractical. But a 3-to-1, 3 omega-6s to 1 omega-3 would be a good ratio. The standard American diet is 25 to 30 omega-6s to omega-3. That's not good.
That's not good. And that is allowing for a lot of inflammation to occur. We need to redirect that and get that back into balance. And so sources of omega-6 fatty acids would be poultry, eggs, nuts, non-GMO breads, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, vegetable oils, avocados. And it's really the vegetable oils, I think, that have really made that imbalance occur.
It's in everything. And even these omega-6s.
Why are you closing your eyes?
Because I'm thinking.
Okay.
And a lot of people are listening, so they can't see it. When I think, I close my eyes. The omega-6s are even more detrimental to you because of the way they're extracted. Inherently.
You're talking about the vegetable oils.
Yes, because cold pressed would be the way you hear about extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. Okay, so people understand that's good. There is almost impossible to find a cold pressed canola oil. Canola oil is actually very healthy, but not what you're getting.
They're not going to do that because it is too expensive of a process.
Right, and the yield's so low.
Right.
You might find an expeller pressed, which is better than the other, but even expeller, the pressure creates at high heat, and that's degrading the quality of it. I mean, I even see with like some of the Walmart brand omega-3s, it'll say, omega-3, 6, and 9. They're trying to sell it as a positive. Like, well, you don't need any omega-6s. Those are always in there. Just get them from, like you said, the good sources, pumpkin seed, your
poultry,
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
eggs.
It's very difficult to find a cold pressed canola oil. And if you did, it would be kind of cost prohibitive to use it for frying or things like that. So,
okay.
Is there the omega-9s? I think is one that doesn't get much attention.
No, not at all. And so omega-9s, they're also monounsaturated fatty acids that are found in plant and animal sources both. They are synthesized endogenously, but again, they cannot meet all of your body's demands, so you have to consume them.
And olive oil is
as
high.
Well. So this group is kind of labeled a partially essential fatty acid, but the sources. Oh gosh, what are some of the sources?
Olive oil is good.
Olive oil is a good one. Yeah.
And that's what. Yeah,
for 9.
Yep. And
then of course there's some like avocados and peanut butter and chicken eggs and some other nuts and seeds and stuff like that. The omega-3s are the ones that have been getting all of the attention for very good reason, and I'm glad. Just because of the standard American diet is so lacking in it, and the standard American diet is so high in these omega-6s, primarily because of the vegetable oils that are in everything. I bought a bag of nuts, and I looked at the ingredients, and
they added oil.
They added oil to it. I guess to make the salt stick or something.
Exactly.
But I was like, they have taken something good, and now they have made it bad. So you have to read everything. A package of nuts. Mm-hmm. You better read the ingredients. I was so mad about that.
Salted pecans. Yep.
Yeah, I just threw them away. And so the omega-3 fatty acids, the sources for that are the best sources, I should say, are your fatty cold water fish. So salmon, herring, mackerel, sardines. Mm-hmm. Those are really excellent sources. I know it's very difficult for me to eat herring, mackerel, and sardines.
And the mackerel is smaller. Like the king mackerel is very high in mercury.
Right.
So that's why you're saying this. The larger the fish, the older the age, the higher in the food chain, the more mercury it's going to have.
More likely that it's going to have a lot of mercury in it. So
that's why a lot of your omega-3 sources for your supplements are from anchovies or krill. They're the bottom of the food chain. herons right above that, the small mackerels above that. By the time you get to swordfish or shark
They're very
or
high
tuna,
margin.
I know a lot of people eat a lot of tuna. If you're going to eat a tuna, there's one called light, not white, but light tuna. That's the skipjack tuna. It's a smaller tuna. They harvest it after a couple of years, and it has much less mercury because it's lower on the food chain. So just try there. I know
Be cognizant of the sourcing of your fish, and just know that the older the fish, the more likely it is to be contaminated.
and if it's a predator fish,
and if it's a predator fish.
so your cod is a cheap fish. It's very good, healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Salmon, all your salmon. It doesn't matter if it's pink salmon, king salmon, coho.
Which is the one that I like the best?
You like king because it's the most expensive.
No, it's not.
No, it is delicious.
It just tastes better.
It does. And it also depends on what we can get. So it's hard to get king. It is delicious.
We are in Arkansas, so we are landlocked, not.
Well, it all comes up from.
It's all coming. But from the coast, you do have a better selection. If you live on the coast.
For some species, yes, depending on what's local. And of course, most of the salmon you're getting in the store now is farm raised. They're actually adding dye to the food, so the fish will have color to it. It's the omega-3s that make that fish look the way it does.
It's what it's eating. Its diet is making it look so pink.
Yeah, when I catch a high mountain trout, its flesh is almost red because it's eating so much of the freshwater shrimp. When you catch a trout that's been stocked from the fish hatchery, and it's no color at all. That's because there's very few omega-3s.
Right.
Tilapia has no omega-3s.
It's a terrible protein source.
Well, because of the way it's raised. I mean, it's a cichlid, so it can filter.
I mean, it's providing you
protein,
but that's about it. And
if you could find a wild caught, which doesn't exist, that'd probably be a decent tilapia. But it's a heavily farm raised fish, and it's fed not only poor quality food. A lot of times it's fed sewage.
Right.
The stuff from China I would not trust at all. They're selling it for a cheaper price than you can feed good feed to it. So which does that mean? They're feeding sewage, which makes the algae bloom, and they eat the algae, and it's a
poor quality fish.
Right.
And fish is one of the things that there's a lot that
mislabeled.
There's a lot of fraud in the fish industry. And I know that we have bought fish before, and we were like, this is not what we paid for. This is a completely different fish. I know fish. This is not what we bought.
I've said it back at a restaurant. It's like, there is no way this is halibut or sea bass.
You would know because you spent a lot of time in Alaska.
Yeah.
Fishing for, what was it, halibut, salmon. You and Tim went up there and
mainly salmon.
Living like mountain men.
More like bums. Scum buckets. But yeah, it's those fish taste a lot different than the salmon you get. So don't buy farm raised salmon. Now, I was going to create controversy because I recently met a purveyor of a fish market out in Colorado he's in Montrose and gets delicious fish. Yeah. And he made an argument like, there are some farm raised that are fed fish. So basically they're
trying to imitate their diet in the wild,
but controlling the environment so they can reharvest them. But that's the exception, not the rule. Right. Everything you're getting at Kroger or Walmart, unless it says wild caught, is farm raised, and they're feeding it a poor quality omega-6 corn-based type diet, adding dye to it to make it look orange. And
it's sad that it's reached this point.
Yeah, and that's in the restaurants. That's almost everything you're getting. And I've talked to restaurant people, and they said, "Well, people won't pay for the wild caught, so this is what we feed them."
I know. I just wish people would take would make the importance of quality much greater.
It's one of the few supplements.
Health.
We always say you cannot supplement yourself to health, even though we sell supplements. You cannot supplement yourself to health, but that's one of the few ones that we do recommend is an omega-3, a high quality.
I take one.
Yeah.
Basically every day.
It's good for cognitive health.
Unless I'm eating fish that day, and I'm like, I can skip today.
Yeah.
And so other sources for omega-3 fatty acids other than your fatty fish, which I think we have explained rather well, are your nuts and seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, and things like that. And some people have trouble with these. I don't do well with flax. Mm-hmm. I don't do well with, what are those? It's not pumpkin seeds. It's the
pepitos.
man, they cause me a lot of GI distress.
But even those omega-3s are not as complete because there's different components.
Right.
The omega-3 is just not one item. It's DHA, EDH.
Right.
So
There's different types of
subcomponents.
Right.
And so the fish has the best one. The plant-based does not give you all of them.
Right.
It's good, but doesn't give you all of them.
So pastured eggs are a great source of omega-3s, avocados, cod liver oil.
You can even see it in the eggs. When you get a farm-raised egg and you know this being raised free range and from a local person that you know, the white is much thicker and the yolk is orange. The stuff in the stores, not so much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely tell farm-raised eggs from the store-bought.
Even the best store-bought are not as good as just. There's so many people raising eggs now. Find someone local that's doing them right.
Yeah. And then let's see here, oysters, anchovies we mentioned, and meat and dairy from grass-fed animals. They're going to be high in omega-3s. Grass-fed beef is high in omega-3s. As soon as you throw that corn in there,
the ratio changes.
The ratio is going to change.
And so your steaks you're getting that are so tasty, corn-fed beef is delicious because that inflammation causes fat,
right?
And that fat tastes good, but it is higher in omega-6. People are like, oh, grass-fed beef doesn't. I mean, beef doesn't have omega-3. It does if it has grass-fed.
And it is, you do have to treat it, and you have found this and have tried to explain to others, you have to kind of treat grass-fed beef kind of like wild game.
Yeah.
You have to prepare it and cook it a little bit differently so that it is more tastier.
I'll tenderize it a little bit, and then I sear it, and then I cook it at about 200 degrees. So it has that little bit of char on the outside, but then you have to put it in the oven.
It's so good.
But if you rush it, those proteins seize up.
Can we have steak tonight?
We can.
Okay, good.
Those proteins will seize up, and that's what makes it tough. So if you cook something slower, the slower you cook it at the lowest temperature, the less proteins will seize up, and you can have it more tender. So you have to, a corn-fed beef, you can just treat it rough. You can grill it, and it's going to be delicious.
And that's all you're getting in most of your restaurants. It's going to be corn-fed beef, unless they specifically say grass-fed. But even then, they're probably finishing it off with corn.
Or it's been corn raised and they finish it on grass.
Yeah, or they finish it on grass just so they can say it's been grass-fed. And again, I mean, you have to just do the best that you can.
And you can't get, prime, which is the best designation. That's all corn-fed. Yeah. Because the marbling that designates it as prime, you cannot achieve with grass-fed. I'm telling you, it's a little bit of a difference to learn how to cook it and taste, but then you can eat beef a lot more often, which makes up for the difference that it's not quite as tasty. And if you cook it right, it actually is as tasty. You have to treat it like a wild game. And
there are farmers who are raising 100% grass-fed beef. I would encourage you to seek them out and support them, please. Because you're just not going to find this high quality beef anywhere else, and you want to support them. You want them to be around,
and you're going to
we need them to stay around and be successful. So support them.
But you have to ask them how they're doing it. So make sure that it is.
Yeah, check, vet your farmer. Just like you would your mechanic or plumber or whoever else. So that's the omega-3s. The trans fatty acids are the last fat that we're going to talk about. And you want to avoid these. These are made when liquid oils are turned into solid fats. And these are often referred to as partially hydrogenated oils. They're found in your commercially prepared baked goods, frozen pizzas, microwave popcorn,
Crisco,
fried foods, Crisco, refrigerated doughs, non-dairy creamer, margarine, shortening. And these fats will contribute to immune dysregulation, inflammation, and metabolic derangements. Okay, so it's poison. Mm-hmm. Again, they're in your processed foods, and it's poison. It is poisoning your body and causing so much inflammation and not allowing, it's bad information for your cells. You cannot expect your body to function as it was designed by God when you are putting this stuff into your body. I don't think I can make it any clearer than that. So you want to avoid those. I do want to talk about cholesterol real quick, because cholesterol is another thing that has gotten a bad rap. And when I was a dietitian, it was getting a bad rap then. You had to avoid cholesterol, and cholesterol is the root of all bad things in the body, and it's causing all the heart disease, and it is absolutely not.
Statins are the number one profit generator for big pharma.
Yeah, and statins they're thrown at you like they're addressing a problem that isn't even the problem.
Tell them the dirty little secret.
What do you?
That half of the heart attack.
Oh yeah, so I'm good friends with a cardiovascular surgeon in the state of Arkansas. He was the first in the state, and very, very wise man. And he would take his patients off statins just to have the cardiologist put them back on. And half of the people who were having heart attacks had, quote, normal cholesterol levels. So there's obviously something else going on.
They act like it's the number one driver of...
And it is not. In fact, they have looked at plaques in the coronary vessels, and cholesterol was not the main component there. Cholesterol just happened to be at the scene of the crime. It was there to serve more of a protection. The vessel was trying to burst. There had been an injury at the vessel, and
which is inflammation.
It was because of inflammation from a lot of different sources, and hyperinsulinemia is a big driver of that. And so cholesterol, again, happens to be at the scene of the crime. It's there to try to wall off this area of damage. And so what do they go after? They go after cholesterol like they have never gone after it before. And now they're even calling statins an anti-aging medication. These things, I can't stand statins. I posted on my Facebook just a list of all the side effects, and they cause mitochondrial damage. They're giving people diabetes. Of course, the most familiar one people are that happens is myopathy, primarily because of the mitochondrial damage. They prevent the production of CoQ10.
These patients need to be exercising, and most of them have leg cramps that are so bad they can't exercise.
Right. I know. And then, of course, cholesterol is the primary building block for your hormones, testosterone. And I would see these men who just had no energy, zero sex drive. Their legs were hurting them, and you look at their labs, and they're barely making any testosterone. Their cholesterol is so low, and they feel horrible. And it's like they're using a medication to address
a symptom,
but a problem that is not even the problem.
What's weird is it doesn't actually even correlate. They want to say it's causation, but it barely even correlates. If over half the patients have normal cholesterol who have a heart attack, you can't even say that it correlates.
Right.
Because really, normal cholesterol would correlate better with a heart attack, but they don't say that. It's always cholesterol, and we're going to.
And I'll give you a good example. My father had a quadruple bypass at the age of 60. Okay, my dad was a shift worker, chronically sleep deprived. He was a shift worker for 30 years, chronically sleep deprived, under a great deal amount of stress. He did not smoke. He did not drink. He was a Christian. Faith was big for him. His diet was horrible. My dad is a sugar addict. He just, I can hear the bowl. I can still hear the spoon hit the ice cream bowl at night, while he was watching Andy Griffith or something. And he just loved Little Debbie treats were just falling out of the cabinets. You could open it and just fall out. And so he had a quadruple bypass at the age of 60. His cholesterol levels were, quote, high. I also have high cholesterol levels. Always have.
Your genetics. Your dad was a great athlete. You are too. So your genetics are
very,
identical.
very same. I have high cholesterol too. And I say high, my total's around 240, which actually used to be normal. A total cholesterol of 240 used to be normal. So I was having heart palpitations and this just heaviness in my chest, and it was going on for months. And I was just making myself sick over it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going down the same pathway as my father. I was working as an ER doctor, so I was also doing shift work and chronically sleep deprived.
But not near as long.
And I was like, what if so I had a cardiac catheterization done. And after that procedure, the interventional cardiologist said, you will definitely not die of cardiovascular disease.
Your vessels were clean as a whistle.
My vessels were clean as a whistle. And I was eating all the stuff they tell us not to eat because bad and cholesterol bad. I was eating steaks. I was eating butter. I was doing all of those things too. I also ate a lot better than my father.
So the main difference was your father was chronically stressed and a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm. Hyperinsulinemia.
And chronic stress for an extended period of time. Yet same genetics, same cholesterol levels, clean as a whistle for you, quadrupled bypass for him.
Right.
That, folks, that you cannot sum up this.
And thank goodness there's more and more research coming out that is contradicting this whole statin narrative, cholesterol as the cause of the problems. It's now we know it's sugar, carbs, hyperinsulinemia, and inflammation. And inflammation has a lot of different causes. And
the cardiologists are so lockstep.
They will not give it up.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You tried to help a patient that was under your care, but also the care of a cardiologist. And the director made you apologize to him because he threatened to withhold patients from the rehab program because he got butthurt because you told the person to.
I know.
Because his testosterone was in the tank.
I was concerned. This patient, I was talking to him, and he was in the cardiac rehab program. He could barely turn the pedals on the bike because his muscles were hurting so bad. And he's like, Dr. Beard, I don't have any energy at all. I'm not rehabbing like these other people. What's going on? And I said, well, when you go back to your PCP, have them just check a testosterone. I want to know what that is. And so he came back the next week, and he was barely producing any testosterone. And I said, I fear that, and his cholesterol levels were so ridiculously low, so low. And I said, I'm concerned about the dosage of your statin and your statin contributing to, one, your myopathy that you're experiencing in your legs and your low testosterone levels. And well, lo and behold, he goes and tells the cardiologist that. And next thing you know, I'm getting a call from admin.
I mean, it was a big deal.
Asking that I go apologize to the cardiologist for making his patient second guess his advice.
Folks, this is the problem, what we call silo medicine. Let's explain silo medicine to them.
Yeah, so the medical system we have now divides the body up into different organs. And so this doctor is a specialist with this organ, and there's another guy who specializes in this organ, and nobody's talking to each other. And the body does not function like that. Nope. The body functions as a whole. That is God made a beautiful and miraculous system that works together. So whatever you do to the heart or the brain or the nerves or your skin or your liver, it's all going to impact all the other organs.
This is what makes functional medicine.
You have to look at it that way.
This is what makes functional medicine so successful, is that it looks at the whole body,
we look at root causes. Mm-hmm. We are trying to uncover and address the root cause of that cellular dysfunction. What is causing that? I don't care what organ it's happening in. What's causing it? Because if it's happening in one organ, it's happening in another. We just haven't seen the lab value or the overt symptom of it yet, but it's brewing.
And this type of cholesterol,
or it may not be expressed that.
This type of problem, like the cholesterol statin cardiologist paradigm, all the different silos have their own little example of that because they're all hung up on just theirs, and they're driving those numbers.
And they've got these meds, and this is what they're going to use for this symptom and this symptom. And medications never address the root cause. You do not have a statin deficiency. You do not have a metoprolol deficiency.
Nope.
You do not have a Lasix deficiency. What is causing your blood pressure to be high? What is causing your cholesterol? And I don't get too hung up on cholesterol levels unless there's a lot of inflammation present. Then I get concerned.
And if they're super high, your diet's probably not great.
Yeah, and now we know that a cholesterol level of 240 is probably necessary for proper bodily function, and they want everybody at 200 or less.
Yeah, and they keep on changing the goalpost. Make it the same thing with blood pressure medicines.
Oh yeah, blood pressure we used to tolerate a much higher blood pressure, and now when I read a stat today when they made the parameter for blood pressure 120/80, the increase in blood pressure medication prescriptions went up 47%.
I wonder who's driving these decisions.
Can you believe that? Makes me sick.
This is big pharma trying to sell more drugs.
I know. Okay, let's don't even go off on that.
So bottom line is...
So hold on, I got to talk about, we didn't finish about cholesterol.
Okay.
We just went on a rant about, I don't know.
Sorry, folks. We always do that.
Yeah. So cholesterol is made by the liver, and it can also be consumed. So your body actually makes cholesterol, right? And then cholesterol is absolutely necessary to make hormones, vitamin D through when your skin is exposed to the sun, you make vitamin D. And then of course you need it for immune cell function. And so cholesterol is necessary also for digesting fats in your digestive tract. And it is a very important component of the cell membrane.
And vitamin D is absolutely paramount to a good functioning immune system.
Vitamin D is actually a hormone, but it does so many things. You have to have it for insulin sensitivity. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect like you said, your immune status.
That's why we're going to have another podcast about being outside in the sun.
The sun is medicinal.
And of course, what they have us doing? Putting sunscreen on.
Oh, I know. And full of toxic chemicals at that. And so, and again, I said normal total cholesterol levels used to be 240. And then, of course, a lot of research shows that people function better with levels of at least 240. And so don't fear cholesterol. And do
fear inflammation.
Do fear inflammation and hyperinsulinemia. And that's why I get fasting insulin levels on all new patients. I need to know what's going on with that insulin level. And then, of course, we can just use signs and symptoms for inflammation, And there are labs that we can order to judge kind of inflammation, like uric acid levels, CRPs, ESRs, if that means anything to you. Those are often, but those are just lab values. Those are created to basically be a parameter to prescribe drugs.
Yep.
A lot of labs are like that. So the bottom line about fats are good for you. It's the quality that matters, how they were sourced, the balance that you have, especially with those omega-3s and omega-6s. Fats are satiating. They make you feel full
for a long period of time.
Avoiding fat to lose weight, losing strategy. Okay. Healthy fats will not harm you. You need fat for your body to function optimally. Avoid the seed oils unless they are cold pressed. Okay. And hardly anyone does that. If it doesn't say cold pressed, don't use it. And then the best fats to consume for cooking or as ingredients, I feel, are grass-fed butter,
olive oil,
cold-pressed olive oil, which most of it is, organic lard, absolutely. And Grandma had that.
And it's hard to find that, so let's not push that too hard.
There are farmers that sell that.
But a lot of it's being fed GMO corn.
Right.
The problem with pigs don't convert very well, so it's hard to find. Grandma's pig was eating out of the garden all the scraps,
yeah.
And that just doesn't occur. So you really need to find someone who's raising their own hog that has a wide variety diet also.
Or you can save your lard, right, when you cook, like Grandma did.
Yeah, but that again, you're cooking. I'm just saying, pork gets a bad rap for a good reason because it's the way it's raised. You cannot find grass-fed beef type pork.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
I know. And then, of course, the other one is coconut oil. We use that a lot when we cook too. And it has, of course, you want to cook with your oils based on what you're cooking and what temperature you're using, because some are better at lower temps, some are better at higher temps.
Yeah. So there are certain olive oils that'll hold up pretty well for high heat, and you can find that out. And if you do need something for high heat, another one we don't use a lot, but we use sometimes is the grapeseed, and that can handle a really high heat. So between those those three, coconut, the butter, and the olive oil, that be the majority of your cooking. And then for high temp sauteing, you can use the grapeseed, again, if you can find the cold pressed. But there's so many grapes in the world, you actually can find that because it's a highly produced.
Yeah.
And then avocado oil also.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
And it imparts a lot of flavor, just like the coconut oil. So you have to kind of be
cognizant of that.
Yeah.
What you're cooking.
And it can handle a high heat also.
Yeah.
So.
And are avocado oils typically cold pressed?
Yes, because if it's done correctly, a lot of it's coming from the flesh.
Okay.
So it doesn't require the high heat to extract it like the seed oils.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. So that concludes our episode on fats. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you're not fearful of fat.
Sorry about the tirades.
Sometimes things have to be said, to make a point.
Slips out.
All right. Thanks for listening. And again, I hope you learned something, and go eat some butter.
I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't do no drugs.